If you are a footballer with pubalgia, sports hernias, or osteitis pubis, and in fact any kind of pelvic or groin pain or irritation, this video is for you. I'm Taylor, the founder of Football Entangled. I've experienced tons of injuries, and one of those was actually osteitis pubis that I had right before and during my ACL tear, and I believe that probably led to the tear in the first place, but it was something that I fixed on my own during my ACL rehab. And the big gap in awareness and knowledge here is that these conditions are somewhat hard to diagnose, they're hard to treat, and thus in the modern medical system, the solution is drugs, is surgery, is ice and rest, taking pills to numb the pain. These things don't offer you any kind of long-term solution, and they don't get down to the root cause of why is there a friction, why is there a shearing in my pelvis, in my hips, in my groin, any of this area that is experiencing irritation. That is not random. Pain is not random. Pain is a signal from your body telling your brain something is dysfunctional. And if you ignore that dysfunction by just resting, by changing your habits, and by habits I mean avoiding the pain. Because if you avoid the pain, you're running away from the signal, from the alert, from the opportunity to grow and develop. So if you run away from the pain, again with surgeries, with injections, with pills, with ice, with rest, you will never actually get down to the bottom of it, and you'll never grow as a footballer, as an athlete, and as a human. Now, I experienced this myself, and I think there are three big main reasons why footballers develop these conditions. And yes, there are different names. In my personal opinion, I think these different names, which are different conditions, they are basically the same thing with a small twist. But more or less, the root cause of these issues is the same, and it's your inability to control function in your skin. And thus, the pain you're feeling is a misaligned adaptation to help you play football. Now back to the three reasons why players develop these kind of issues is number one, is probably the most embarrassing one, is excessive porn and masturbation. Because when you are building up lots of sexual energy into this region of your body, you are forcing and reinforcing and teaching and making your pelvic floor, which is the muscles in between your anus and your sexual organs, to hold tension, to get tight and tight and tight and tight. And just think about all those hours that young men are sadly behind a TV screen or behind a laptop or a phone screen and are doing things they shouldn't be. And what's happening is they're building up all this tension. And sadly, in our society these days, no one is teaching young men, young athletes, how to relax, how to release these tensions in a proper way that recycles energy back into the body and into something productive. Now that's the first thing, excessive porn and masturbation. Number two is excessive gym work, because most gym work, it's more optimal in order to lift more weights is to brace your core. And so yes, core bracing increases the tension to protect your spine from collapsing under the weight or to help your body stiffen against the load so it can be safe. Now, oftentimes what happens, and especially in conjunction with the first reason, is then this pelvic floor is also brought along for the ride with the core bracing, and everything is squeezed, and then you lose the ability to let it go. And thus what happens is that level of contraction and tension in the pelvic floor, in the muscles, not the fascia, in the muscle, is then normalized, and your brain loses awareness that you're actually holding on to this tension. And thus you forget how to get back down to zero, which would be 0% contraction. Let's say you're stuck at 40%. You're walking around all the time at 40%. And thus over many months, over years of playing high-level sports and jumping and hitting a football, and especially in football, which is predominantly an asymmetrical sport where you're doing a lot of planting and shooting with the same foot. So, I'm left-footed, he's right-footed. Over many, many months of passing and shooting in the same way, that creates asymmetry And when you have other things that are also not working right, that can then lead to the friction and shearing that you're experiencing in your groin and your pelvic area. So number 3 is under the first 2, but is also very real, is it's an adaptation to previous injury that has gone untreated or has been numbed away by, again, modern Band-Aids. When you have an old hamstring thing, when you have an old ankle sprain, where there's scar tissue, the muscle can't fully contract, can't fully relax the way it should, that again pulls on other muscles above and below. So when you have other issues that have been untreated and then you play on it, you lift weights on it, you do all these things on a broken foundation, then eventually you get some issues in the core of your body. So those are the 3 main areas I see personally with my athletes, with my clients, with pro players in the spotlight that are experiencing these issues, and also in myself. This is how these issues are created, and the mainstream medical system is not equipped to deal with these kind of issues because they're chronic and they don't have a clear cause. It's more of a indirect cause, and that is bad for the mainstream medical system because you can't sell drugs to it, you can't sell injections. Now of course they'll try, but again, now you're the victim because you're going in circles, paying all this money and getting no results, and still in pain and frustration. So I want to share a few simple things with you that you can start to do to let go of this overly contracted pelvic floor that is leading to shearing and tearing of your pelvis and all the small little important pieces in there that make you a man. Now, before I show you a few things, I just want to explain what needs to happen. When you inhale air and you breathe in, your pelvic floor is supposed to actually relax, soften, and expand as your diaphragm fills and goes down, okay? Now, when you exhale, air comes out of your mouth or your nose, everything is supposed to contract and shorten. Now, it's a cycle. So you inhale, everything expands, and you exhale, everything shortens. That is a natural back and forth rhythm that the human body has developed over, evolution. Now, what happens is we lose what's happening at the pelvic floor, and it becomes disconnected from the inhale and the exhale and the diaphragm. So when you're breathing in, it's very shallow. It's not reaching that area at all. So then the pelvic floor has become disconnected from the breath, and it's really, really, really important. And so that's the first area that athletes need to work on to get out of all of these groin and pelvic issues. So I'll show you in a bit this exercise that will help with that. Now, the second piece of the puzzle is once the breath and the pelvic floor have a better relationship, and you kind of can do it automatically, and you actually can feel what it feels like to be fully relaxed in your pelvic floor, because I guarantee almost all of you watching this in your life, you probably have never felt what it feels like for your pelvic floor to be fully relaxed, simply because you're not aware of it. You're not aware of what you're not aware of. The bigger overall picture of this story is, yes, you need to improve the breath to the pelvic floor relationship, but on its own, that won't solve everything. Now, the other side of the coin is the feet, your only connection to the ground. Oftentimes, the pelvic floor and the groins will overcontract to compensate for lack of stability from the other surrounding muscle groups. And so now I'm sure you might be thinking, okay, now it's time to get in the gym and strengthen the glutes and the hamstrings and the calves. And again, that is not the solution, because that is an isolated, targeted solution. It's not a comprehensive, holistic solution that creates change in the nervous system. So the feet are the most important thing in the body because they are connected to the ground. And so what happens is the feet, and more specifically, the plantar fascia in the sole of the foot, is supposed to be connected to the posterior chain, going through the hamstrings, going through the hips and the glutes, and wrapping around into the core, which of course the pelvic floor is just below there. So all of this is integrated. We're not robots. We are human beings. We are integrated, sophisticated, complex yet simple organisms. And so you must build this fascial connection from the plantar fascia up the posterior chain, going into the glutes and wrapping around into the core and the abdomen, so that the pelvic floor feels safe enough to relax, because it will contract when the body fears for its safety. When you're jumping in a match and you're doing change of direction, if your nervous system thinks that it's not safe and that you must compensate for a lackluster glute function, for poor foot functionality, for poor ankle stiffness, it must compensate that stiffness somewhere else. It will do that in the quads, in the pelvic floor. So what you have to do is build the correct system, which is the posterior chain. Now, so on my page, there are dozens of exercises that I've shown to build the foot functionality. But of course, people that work with me as a client get the best results. So now, this first exercise to work on the pelvic floor, you can take a plyo ball, and if you don't have that, I'll suggest just taking a towel and rolling it up really, really tight, like this. Roll it up as tight as you possibly can, get it nice and thick, and just put it on a chair like this, and you're going to sit on it, okay? I know it just seems like a weird thing for an athlete to be sitting on something on a chair, but the thing is, most of you guys are not aware, you don't have the awareness of your body, so you must use external references to make you feel, in this case, your pelvic floor. So now, it's very simple. I'm going to breathe in, I'm going to inhale through my nose, and I'm going to attempt to push the air down into the towel, into my pelvic floor, helping it expand, okay? So look, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to inhale. And keep going and keep going. Most of you guys, your inhales are very shallow. So I'm still inhaling, even though I'm talking. So more and more and more, try and push the air down into the pelvic floor, and then smoothly exhale. And almost imagine that you're trying to like grab or squeeze this towel up into you. So that is the rhythm, that's the to and from, that's the back and forth that we're working on. Now, the better that you can sync those two things, the deeper that you can go in both directions, you'll find yourself having a much better relationship with your core, with your pelvic floor, and your groin and your pelvis. So again, inhale. Exhale. Now, this looks simple, but most of you guys cannot do this, and it takes a lot of time. So I suggest doing this for at least 5 minutes per day. Do it for 7 days at the very least. And in the comments, comment how you're doing, comment what you're feeling. After 5 minutes, when you get up, you should feel quite different in this area. You should feel lighter, more free. And the pelvic floor should feel different to you. You should feel the ability to notice if you're unconsciously contracting it or if you're actually letting it relax, because it's very important. Most athletes in their whole career will never do this stuff because they're too afraid or they just don't care. But because you have this pain, it's forcing you to learn about your body. So be thankful for this gift of pain that you have, that it brought it to me, the pain teacher, who's going to help you fix your body. Now guys, give us a try in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling. If any of you guys are experiencing any kind of the issues that I mentioned, pubalgia, osteitis pubis, hernias, once again, surgery is not the option. Rest is not the option. Ice is not the option. The only option you have, the only true option you have, is to conquer your body, to dominate and gain awareness of your tissues in stuff like this, so that you can become whole, can become integrated, and become truly athletic. Not only will you fix your pain, but you also become a better athlete, a better footballer, and a better human being. And if your training isn't doing that, your training is a waste of time. I'm Taylor, I make top footballers. If you are a pro, I work with pros on an annual basis inside Club Entangled. So send me an email at taylor@footballentangled.com if that's you. If you're not a pro, down below in the description is my program called Total footballer, where I help non-pros become elite and transform their talent level. Again, I'm Taylor. Thank you so much. Comment, like, and all that stuff, and I'll see you guys very soon. Cheers.